Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids. My name is Amit, and whether you like it or not, electric cars are going to take over IC engines faster than you can think. And here you can see a living proof. A car which can be used over long distances is every bit as premium as an IC engine powered Audi that you've driven, and has a lot more features than your regulation Audi. So let's explore this fantastic new electric car from Audi, which is one of the leaders if you look at all the cars which are being produced by the German car makers in the countries that matter the most. And it's testimony to the fact that Audi has put its money where its mouth is. So let's first understand what this product is about. Let's start with its dimensions. It's based essentially on the Q5 platform, but it's bigger than Q5 substantially. And if you look at its wheelbase, its length, its width, its height, everything is bigger, wider, taller than the Audi. And if you compare it with the rest of the cars in the segment also, if you compare it with the I-Pace, which by the way is the smallest of the electric trio of the I-Pace, the EQC and the Audi E-Tron, it's the largest car in this segment. It's bigger than the EQC, substantially bigger than the EQC, although it's not the widest car in its class, but generally speaking it's a very big car. It's the biggest of the electric cars that we have available from the premium manufacturers in India. Now, a few interesting bits about this car. The first is this platinum grey grille, where you see these 4 horizontal slats which are specific to the E-Tron line. And if you look at the treatment up front, it's a little different from what you have seen on your regulation Audis. You have this air curtain here and a piano back finish, and these lights need a special mention. But before that, you have this DRL here and these 4 horizontal slats which represent that it's an electric E-Tron. So that's a signature, and this array of horizontal lines is something which is carried over in various different parts of the car to signify that it's an electric Audi. So starting from this grille here, these 4 slats here, on the sides if you see, you'll see those fin-like shapes on the doors as well. And if you go to the rear, which we will in a bit, you'll see that this theme of the horizontal slats is something which is specific to the electric Audi line. Now, the headlights here. These headlights are very special as they are digital matrix LED headlamps, and for the first time in the country, they offer you lane light which illuminates a specific lane and also orients you as you are moving into a new lane. So it generally keeps you focused on the lane that you're in. Also, it has a marking light which brings a pedestrian or an animal in spotlight if you're not able to see it, and helps prevent accident. In addition to all of that, these lights are very intelligent. They're anti-dazzle, and they light up the corners also in a very active dynamic kind of a manner, where if you're going around a bend, it intelligently lights up the bend in a manner normal cornering lights don't. The capabilities of these lights can be seen by looking at the dynamic projection that these create in front of the vehicle in the night, and it's quite phenomenal. You have these headlamp washers here, and with 408 HP of power on tap, it's quite fast too, and that little bit of aggression is projected through this huge air dam at the center, and it looks quite aggressive, although not overly so. Very muscular, very nice looking Audi. It has the lines which remind you that it's an Audi, but it has a character of its own. Coming towards the sides, the first thing that you need to know is that it comes with these charging sockets, and Audi has provided these charging sockets on both the sides. The right hand side if you're sitting in the driver's position, and one on the other side as well. One of these is only an AC charger, while the other one is both AC and DC. Now, talking about charging, let's also see how much time it takes for this car to charge fully. So with the 11 kilowatt AC charging, it will take 8.5 hours in the home. With 22 kilowatt AC charging, 4.5 hours for an 80% charge. On 50 kilowatt DC, a public charger will charge it to about 80% in 1.9 hours. A 100 kilowatt DC charger will charge it 80% in less than 1 hour, and if you are at a 150 kilowatt fast charger, it will charge it to 80% in less than 30 minutes. Now, under the bonnet, obviously you don't have an engine. What you have is this electric charging compartment, and you have all these cables, and the important thing to know is that right now it's attached to a DC fast charging unit, but if you so wish, you can replace this with this unit. As you can see, you have a plug for a socket, a home socket here, and you just have to replace this cable and put this cable in for a home charging point. So that's how you can replace the two chargers, and if you think you have enough charge, you can probably use this space to store something as well. An interesting thing that you'll note here, no need for any insulation since it's a battery, no vibrations, no noise from the engine, so no insulation either. A few other details that you'll notice up front are this E-Tron badging here, a front camera which is absolutely high definition and works like a charm, and you also have these front parking sensors here. What also is interesting are these 6 vertical slats which cut across the horizontal slats on the single frame grille. Now looking at the sides, the E-Tron badging on top of the charging cover is what makes it evident that it's in fact an E-Tron. The wheels here are 20 inches and are shot with Continental premium contact 6 tires, 255 section. These 20-inch wheels look really beautiful, and for the E-Tron they have a special two-tone design as well. The calipers are painted in a sporty yellow with E-Tron badging on it. The wheel arches have this very pronounced recess, and this again is a design element which is specific to the E-Tron. Now the greenhouse area is surrounded by this satin silver finish, and the ground clearance here, though adequate in its default form, is not enough to go over really vicious bumps, but this car comes with air suspension on all 4 wheels, so you can always raise the ride height and go over some really bad roads. You have body colored ORVMs with LED blinkers and camera units on both the wing mirrors. These horizontal lines on the doors again highlight the fact that this is the E-Tron, and if you look at the roof of this car, you'll see that there is a panoramic sunroof there, although this is not the biggest of the sunroofs that we have seen on these big SUVs. Satin silver roof rails and a shark fin antenna complete the top look, and that brings us to the rear, where we have LED tail lamps which run across the breadth of the car, and this line is completely illuminated. You have the E-Tron badging, and this 55 Quattro means that, in terms of performance, it's similar to a 55 badged Audi which is powered by an IC engine, and Quattro means that the power is sent to all 4 wheels with help of the Quattro AWD system. As I was talking about earlier, the theme of these horizontal lines is carried over to the back as well and is a part of the bumper, and at the lower part of the bumper also you'll see these horizontal lines which are finished in satin silver. As is the case with the headlights, the tail lights also have these horizontal lights which again underline the fact that this is the E-Tron. A small but interesting detail is this haunch here, which is associated with the Quattros, and which means that this indeed is an all-wheel drive Quattro car and not a car which is either a rear-wheel drive or a front-wheel drive. The 360-degree camera setup is completed by this rear camera, which also has a washer, so that even in rainy conditions, when the muck is flying around, your camera is clean and your visibility is not hampered. Now here's the key, and you have this button to open the tailgate as well, which is powered. You have to press this twice and the tailgate will open up and show you a boot which is 660 liters in size, and if you bring down the 40-20-40 split seats, will extend to 1725 liters. Underneath the boot you have more space, so you can use this tray for storing whatever additional items that you have, and you have inflatable space saver spare here with a top speed marking of 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers per hour. You can use these levers here to drop the seats like so in a 60-40 split, but the seats can actually be split in 40-20-40, and you have these hooks, these nets, and some area, a 12-volt power socket, these hooks on the floor, and this net to stop stuff from flying around, and then you also have this parcel tray which can be extended. The illumination in the boot is provided by these 2 lights here. One is here and the other one is there, and it's done rather nicely. And then one thing which comes along with most of modern powered cars is the feature of opening the boot by swiping your leg underneath it. Now a few things before we enter the cabin. First is, with the key in your pocket, you don't really have to take it out, and once you open the door and once you drive it and get out and shut it again, the doors come with soft close functionality where they got pulled in, and this is a premium feature which you'll find in very rare cars, and the Audi E-Tron is one of them. Open the doors and you're greeted with high quality materials everywhere, soft to touch materials across the door panel, ambient lighting, LED strips with satin silver, and this very geometric shape around the door pulls, door lock and unlock. The mirrors here are electrically adjustable, electrically folding and heated as well, and you have the buttons for child lock right here. The driver's seat comes with two-way memory, and this space is enough to store a big enough water bottle, and then has some space to spare. You actually have an opening here to put a small umbrella, and you have the boot release button right here. Bang & Olufsen branding for the fantastic sounding 16 speaker system with 705 watt of output. You have these beautiful door sills here, and then when you look at the seating, you have electrical adjustments for fore and aft height and recline function, as well as 4-way lumbar support as well. Seat height is slightly higher than ideal. It's not as high as some of those brutish SUVs, but for the shorter ones amongst you, you might have to pop yourself a little bit to get inside. There is some space here to store your wallet or any other articles, and the controls for the light are here. Now with the Audi E-Tron, Audi did not want this car to look radically different from your regulation cars, and that theme can be seen on the outside design as well as on the inside. However, there are high quality materials everywhere. The dash is made of leather with this contrasting stitching. The part here is soft to touch, and the overall touch and feel of the dash is beautiful, and it's a very 3D kind of a layout, a waterfall kind of a design. While the upper part of the dashboard is receded inside, the middle part has this E-Tron branding and horizontal lines in piano black. The AC vents are again horizontally laid out with inserts of chrome, and this beautiful non-lacquered open pore wood here, which looks really classy to see and to touch. The materials on the dashboard elsewhere are also soft to touch, except for the glove box, where you have relatively hard plastic, and you have this rather cavernous glove box with illumination right here. Electric start stop button. Obviously you don't have the engine here, so now the car is primed to move, and the drive selector also is unique to the E-Tron, where you have to move this lever like so, and as you move it, the drive moves from drive to neutral to reverse. You have drive and sport modes, electric parking brake. Here's the button for volume. You can control most of the functions with this touchscreen here. Right now we are looking at the fantastic 3D camera that comes standard with this car, and you have a ton of views. So here you have the 360-degree view, and right now we are looking at the front view from the car, and as you swipe left, a whole menu of various different views which are available opens up. Let's first have a look at the 3D view, and you can have a look at the car's projection from any direction you want, and it's simply fantastic. Now let's have a look at the other views. There are 3 custom views. Let's have a look at them as well. And once you move out of the 3D view, you have the side view, front side view. This is the rear view, which is wide. This is the narrow rear view, and this is the top view, going back to the front view and the wide front view. So you have all these views and camera angles available. Now you can change the view that you want from here as well, and wherever you touch, the car shows you the view from that very angle. The car has a 4-zone climate control, and the front 2 zones are controlled with this screen, and you have this virtual cockpit here, which is slightly different obviously because this is an electric car, and you have readouts such as range and charge and battery, etc. It's very simple to understand. The most important readout is obviously the range, and this car has sufficient range. And if you look at the averages, the WLTP range is 359 to 484, and in the real world you should be able to get around 400 kilometers on a single charge if you're not driving too hard. You have all-weather lights here, and the steering wheel is electrically controlled, so that's another premium feature that you have. It has obviously cruise control. There is a dead pedal. Now while there is an ashtray here which can be put in the place where you have 2 cup holders with some space to spare, but if you take the ashtray out, you can use this tambour door to shut it neatly, and then you have this cavernous space here where you can put something, whatever you want to put here. You have a cigarette lighter here, and you have this phone box here where you can put your phone and secure it as well as charge it. So it's a wireless charging pad as well. 2 USB Type-C sockets. You can see the ambient lighting right here, and this car comes with 30 different shades for ambient lighting, and you can choose the ambient lighting for the lines as well as for surfaces. Now, as I mentioned before, for lighting you have up to 30 colors to choose from, and you can light it up for contours as well as for surfaces. There are some default themes also which you can choose simply with the press of the menu item. And on the exterior lighting, as I mentioned before, you can choose the pattern that you want the light to project in front from here. This is quite a cool feature, and nowhere else on any other car will you see this customizability. You can customize this for entry as well as for exit lighting. Then you obviously have Audi Drive Select, which allows you to customize your experience in terms of how you want the car to drive, and you can go to the individual setting and change the drive system, suspension and steering to your preference. The audio system is fantastic, and the sound quality is one of the best out there, although it's not the best, but it's pretty good. You have this panoramic sunroof, but as I mentioned, it's not the largest sunroofs that we have seen, and for a car this large, I think this panoramic sunroof could have extended a bit further back. And while it's raining, let me just open this up and show you how it looks like. Before I get wet, I'll have to put it back on. And there go the blind. Illuminated vanity mirrors for both driver and passenger, along with the toll ticket holder. And underneath this sliding armrest, you have quite some space where you can put a lot of stuff. Right now I have my wallet and my sunglasses holder and a kerchief. So quite a lot of space here, and things won't be flying around while you're sitting here and enjoying the quiet drive in the Audi E-Tron. NHTSA has awarded a 5-star safety rating to this car, so in terms of safety there is absolutely nothing to worry about, and it's as safe as it gets. Now, as I mentioned while I was showing you the rear camera, you can clean the reversing camera with a spray so that the view is always crystal clear, and the muck around the camera is cleared if you are driving in the rains. Now in car details, you can see the amount of range that is left, and if you go to range mode, the car will do whatever it has to do to extend the range by whatever margin it can. For example, right now in the range mode, it has deactivated climate control to save on the charge, and that's how, by controlling various different electric equipment, it enhances the range of the car by whatever margin it can. Now the seats are quite plush and comfortable. Although these are not the plushest seats that I have sat in, but they are rather comfortable, and you can drive a very long distance without being fatigued at all. Overall, this cabin reeks of quality, and like all Audis, is very tech laden, very modern, and yet very well built, and very sporty, contemporary, and yet very luxurious. Let's see how good the back seat is and what are the amenities available. Now, before we get inside, the most mentionable part is these blinds, which are manual, but they're there nonetheless. And you have these LED lines on the rear door panel as well, the same geometric shapes, high quality materials, and enough space for a big water bottle here, as well as one touch up and down controls for the windows. A scuff plate in satin silver is provided here as well, and the seat height again is mildly above ideal, and the shorter ones amongst you will have to again pop yourself a little bit. The recline angle is about perfect. There is ample under thigh support, ample headroom even for 6 feet 1, 6 feet 2 people. So in terms of the space here, no complaints whatsoever. And as I mentioned before, the wheelbase here is more than the Audi Q5. So in terms of the cabin space, there is absolutely no problem whatsoever. As I mentioned before, you have 4-zone climate control, so you can control the temperature as well as the flow from here. And you have this touch panel here to control it rather easily. These 2 AC vents with separate direction and flow control, as well as these B pillar mounted AC vents right here. There is a cigarette lighter and a 12-volt power socket, along with 2 Type-C USB sockets here. There is this massive armrest with enough space for 2 elbows to rest comfortably, 2 cup holders, and then some space under the armrest as well, where you can probably put your wallet or cell phone. Then these 3 seats can be folded down in a 40-20-40 split, and as you can see, you can extend the boot by adjusting the seats the way you want, and if you have any long items which you want to extend into the cabin, you can bring the armrest down. Like if you have skis, you can let them come in by dropping the armrest. All three seats have adjustable headrests. As is the case with most luxury cars, you don't really want to be making anyone sit here because this panel extends into the legroom area, and this seat is not contoured well enough. Okay for short journeys, but not really meant for medium journeys. You have ISOFIX child seat mounts here, and the seats by themselves are very well contoured, very comfortable, and this cabin with the air suspension and the fantastic plush ride quality along with zero noise from the drivetrain feels very, very comforting. It's completely insulated, and over very long journeys as well, you will not have any discomfort at all. A few other interesting details: these reading lights, door handles, and these coat hooks here and here, and of course all three passengers get an individual 3-point seat belt. If I had any complaints, it would probably be about the fact that these seats are not reclining, although the recline angle by default is pretty good, but had there been that feature, it would have probably enhanced the comfort for a lot of people. The front seats are also scooped out, and you have these nets or magazine holders to put if you have any documents or any other articles that you'd probably want to prevent from flying around. Another premium feature that you have on this car is this color HUD. So as you would expect, the first thing that you find different from driving an IC engine power car is the eerie quietness that you have. But there's this another thing. The modern engines have become so quiet, so refined, that until the time you rev them about 1,500 RPM, especially the petrol units, they're so well insulated that when you're just coasting or driving in a very gingerly kind of a manner, there's not much of a difference. It's only when you rev it hard, not this one, the petrol engines, that you could feel any perceptible difference. So that's how far the engine technology has come. Sadly, we'll have to part ways with our beloved petrol and diesel IC engines soon, much as you hate hearing it, but that is a sad reality, and we will be powered increasingly by cars like these, which have electric batteries under the floorboard. And in this specific case, you have a battery capacity of 95 kilowatt hour, and I was checking, and the efficiency, if you are not driving too hard, is about 4 to 4.5 kilometers per kilowatt hour on this battery and this system. So that should easily give you about 400 kilometers of range. As I've also seen, this car responds to the way you're driving, and if you're not driving too hard, obviously you're going to get a better range. And when I started off and was driving a little hard, the range was less, but now the range has improved. So talking specifically about range on this car, since this is a premium car and you would probably want it to go farther than your everyday cars like say the MG ZS or the Tata Nexon, and generally talking about range, if you want to do a day trip to Pune and back, there should not be any range anxiety because this car can take that intercity trip easily. However, if you are going to be at some other place where you're not sure whether you'll be getting a charging point, you might be in a bit of a trouble. But generally these cars are fantastic to drive intercity as well, as long as you are not driving more than say 100-150 kilometers, and they'll get you to that city, get you back, and probably take you through some other points that you want to go to within the city as well. So practicality of these cars in terms of range is limited to shorter distances only yet, but yes, you can travel intercity without much of a problem. Now you'll probably not get that kind of range on the less premium vehicles, and that really is the difference. So for an MG ZS or say the Tata Nexon, while they would be able to get you from say Bombay to Pune or Pune to Bombay one way, a two-way journey would be a little bit of an issue, but this one, it can do it easily. What also is on offer here is fantastic performance, and this car can do 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds flat with a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. And not just that, it's also the way the power is delivered to the wheels, and Audi has always been known for its Quattro all-wheel drive systems. So they have created an electronic version, or rather an electric version of Quattro. This car, like most other premium cars, has two motors, one in the front axle and the second one in the rear axle. All four wheels get the power and the torque, and the E-Quattro controls how much power is being delivered to each wheel, and it does a rather good job of it. The handling is fantastic, and there is tons and tons of grip available on all four wheels. It really holds its line very well. The steering is reasonably good, but it's still not as involving as I would have wanted it to be. I really think that a car like this, which is so capable, so quick, and accelerates so fiercely from a standstill, could have probably done with a more involving steering. As you can see, you have a lot of drive modes to choose from as well, but the thing that you'll miss here is a sport mode. So you have off-road mode, all-road mode, efficiency mode, which I'm driving in right now. You have comfort mode and auto mode, which changes the settings based on the road you're driving on, or the kind of inputs that you're giving. So apart from these, if you want to get into the sport mode, you can use this lever here and push it back to toggle between drive and sport modes. And once you do that, you'll see that this boost sign comes up, and that's when you will get the maximum power of 408 HP that this car can produce, and the peak torque of 664 Nm that this car can produce. If you are not in the sport mode, you will not get that entire power. The peak power will be very marginally less, and so would be the peak torque. So if you want to extract the maximum performance out of this car, you'll have to put it in the S mode. Now, there is absolutely nothing to complain about the way this car drives. It has got an air suspension on all four wheels, so the ride quality is supreme, and you can raise the height of the car if the roads are bad. Generally speaking, when you're driving in the efficiency mode, the ground clearance, although it's good enough to deal with most of the roads and bad humps, some really vicious humps can scrape the belly, so you'll have to be careful. If you're driving in the default mode, the bigger humps can scrape the belly of this car, so you have to be careful about that. This, despite being an SUV, the ground clearance on the more vicious of the bumps can be a little bit of an issue. So make sure that you use the suspension raise feature that you have and keep clear of the bad bumps, because there is ample ground clearance on offer. So you don't really have to bother about it. You just have to be careful. The steering wheel here, as you can see, is an electric unit, so that's something really appreciable. Now if you look at the instrument console here, what you see here is charge, and this is what comes into action when this car is recuperating energy from braking or deceleration. And to enable better recuperation or conversion of kinetic energy into electric energy, what Audi has done is it has given it 3 modes to increase or decrease the amount of recuperation that happens at the batteries. And while there is no transmission or gears to select per se, you still have these pedal shifters, and when you press the downshift -minus button, what happens is this car increases the amount of energy that can be recuperated, and you can use this to increase the resistance that the car produces so that the battery gets charged faster and faster. So you have 3 modes, and apart from that you have one coasting mode where, as you can see right now, so in level 0 there will be no recuperation. In level 1 there will be up to 0.03 Gs of recuperation, and let's just press it. It won't be very aggressive. For level 2 there will be up to 0.1 G of recuperation, wherein you'll feel the braking force, which is up to the equivalent of 0.1 Gs, and then in level 3 you will have up to 0.3 Gs of recuperation. As you can see now, it's charging. As I lifted my foot off the pedal, it's using that opportunity to charge the battery. See, I'll lift off now, and it's using this opportunity to charge. Now I've increased the level, and now it's charging even more, and I can feel the brakes working, which is not exactly brakes, but there is more resistance. So if you're going downhill, you can use this feature to charge the battery more and make sure that you enhance your range. So on the default screen, you'll also see a few other important bits like the amount of charge that you're left with, the range that you have. You have a speedo, but you don't have a tacho here. So it just shows you how much of the battery capacity are you using. So you are using the 100% battery capacity now, and if I go to the boost mode, now you'll see that it will go past the 100% and use the boost as well, where the peak power of 408 HP is used. Now the Audi E-Tron drives beautifully well. The steering is reasonably well weighted, and you get a fantastic control over the road, and you can really see how beautiful Audi has tuned the power delivery as well as the Quattro system. The grip is available in abundance, and when you check this car around corners, it does not move away from the intended line one bit. So in terms of dynamic ability, while this car is fantastic, it's not exactly a sports car. It's tuned more towards comfort, and it's quite evident from the fact that despite having an air suspension, you don't have a sport mode here. So Audi basically wants this car to keep you comfortable, and the ride quality is very supple. The insulation is fantastic, and this always has been the idea behind the E-Tron. Audi always wanted this car to look like a regular Audi car and not differentiate it too much from the IC engine cars, and make it come across as a car that can be used on a day-to-day basis. Nothing too fancy, but a very capable, very high range kind of a car, which you can use not just for your city needs, but can take it out for the occasional short distance intercity drives as well. All of that having said, the acceleration in a straight line is very addictive, and once you put the right foot down, this car really shoves you back into the seat. And if you're someone who loves driving fast, this car can really give you the kicks if you are not going for a very long trip, because driving it sensibly, not driving too hard, really has a bearing on its range. So if you're not going out for a very long trip, you can really enjoy yourself and have a fun time driving the Audi E-Tron. Now, while the prices have not been announced yet, the Audi E-Tron is one of the most successful electric cars globally, and when you look at it, when you drive it and you feel it on a day-to-day basis, you realize why such is the case. It's very practical, very spacious inside, rides on air suspension on all wheels, and has the right amount of comfort and dynamic ability to carry you around on a day-to-day basis, while also giving you enough punch and handling prowess to put a smile on your face when you want to take it out on a weekend. The prices have not been announced, but our hunch is that the car will be priced between 1 to 1.1 crore rupees, which is in the same region more or less as the Mercedez EQC and the Jaguar I-Pace. And at that price, I would like to think that this car gives you more car for every rupee of money spent in the premium electric space. And of the three cars, if you really have to buy the most well-rounded car, the Audi E-Tron has to be it. I really hope that this video was of some use to you. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids. Don't forget to put Motoroids in front of all your searches while searching for long format videos. And until next time, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.